Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. I want to talk secondary with you because we talked a lot of offense last week. What if I told you that the Saints lined up with Paulson Adebo as their number one corner all of next year? Would you be okay with that?
It depends on who's the number two corner on the outside. He had a good season last year. I would, that's tough, man, because that means you're telling me that the Saints are trading Marshon Lattimore,
Yes.
which I've talked about quite a few times. I'd be comfortable with it if you had another young veteran playing out there on the opposite side.
So Taylor can't do it? You don't want Alontae Taylor to do it?
I think he plays well inside, but
Yeah.
he's also pretty solid outside. I mean, are you going to go with those guys as your 1-2 outside guys? It might come down to that, Hunt. And I'd be fine with Paulson Adebo being the number one corner. He certainly elevated his game last season. I mean, no one's going to ever be Marshon Lattimore, but I thought he played some of the best cover corner last season of quite a few of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. He was up there in terms of his rating. So I'd be fine with it. It all depends on if they do trade Marshon, what they get back for him. So I'd be good with it. I mean, that's probably maybe the direction they're going to head in.
Is there another asset that the Saints have as desirable on the open market based on production, age, salary, etc., other than Marshon Lattimore? Like, he, to me, seems like number one on the list.
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to scratch off Olave, Rashid Shaheed,
Sure.
any of the, Brian Brzee. Probably not. I mean, Alvin Kamara can be productive. I'm excited to see if he stays with the Saints and Clint Kubiak's offense. But, the shelf life of a running back, it's tough. It's tough. And I'm sure he would like to prove a lot of people wrong at 29 years old. And I still think he has a lot left in the tank. I just don't think you get, back a lot in return. So I know you asked me this last week. I think, in my opinion, I think Alvin's back next year.
Okay.
So I would think Marshon is the only one who has, the most value if you're really going to trade and try to get some return for him.
Well, sticking in the secondary, are the Saints okay with Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus Maye back there?
I wouldn't be shocked if they go away from Marcus Maye.
Okay.
That could be one of the casualties coming up there in the when they start making cuts or once free agency opens. I wouldn't be shocked. They move for him and go to Jordan Howden and Tyrann Mathieu, maybe get another guy in free agency or draft. They like to play three back there, so I wouldn't be surprised if Marcus Maye is gone. Quite honestly with you, it hasn't been that great with Marcus Maye in the lineup. So I would not be shocked if he is gone once the season starts.
Do you think it's been great with Tyrann Mathieu back there?
Oh, yeah. I like it. I mean, Tyrann,
Okay.
The thing about Tyrann, I like the way he plays in the second half of the season. I feel like his best is always in the final 8 or 9 games of the season. He did that his first year here and then did it again last season. So, yeah, I do. I like what Tyrann does back there, and I like it with him back there.
I was talking yesterday about free agents that I thought the Saints would pursue from their own team and free agents I thought that they would probably let walk. My contention is that Zack Bonnell is an NFL player that doesn't fit in Dennis Allen's system, and he's not used properly there. They don't really have a use for him. They'd rather do something different. I just don't think they're going to bring him back, right?
Well,
You think they're going to let him rush the passer? They haven't done that in 3-4 years.
Well, they started to let him. They definitely let him. He did it a few times last year. He did it a few times, and he was effectively. At times, he was effective. If you get him for a cheap price, I guess you bring him back. I mean, that's it. I mean, you're not getting a pass rusher in the market right now. That's going to be the high productive guy. I mean, I don't know how the Saints are going to lure in somebody on that defensive line outside of the NFL draft. Maybe I'm wrong about taking the salary cap out of it. I just don't know how you lure somebody in to add to that defensive line outside of the draft. So I can see Bond back, at a cheap price.
Let's switch sides of the ball. They've kind of shored up that offensive staff, and we've certainly talked about Kubiak and bringing him in, but they've continued to add over the last 5-6 days. It's definitely a new look staff. There's no remnants of the Peyton Breeze era there. How do you feel now that it's basically set up?
I like it. I told you we got to give Dennis Allen his credit. He went out there, made the changes that were necessary to make them a contender. Everyone was like, "Oh, you got to get away from the Sean Payton era," and they did. They wiped the board clean essentially with everyone on that staff except for Jari Evans, Clancy, the tight ends coach, and a couple other assistants. But yeah, I mean, Dennis and Mickey did exactly what they said we're going to do. They were going to wipe the board clean, start over on offense, and have done that so far. I like Kubiak. You got to have an innovative guy. He's brought in some of his own guys so far. I'm just interested to see how they're going to work with that offensive line. They got pretty much all their coaches in place. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Who is going to be in and out of that offensive line this season? Because that's going to be the biggest question mark for the Saints going into this season. Can they keep Carr upright because of that offensive line?
So this time next week, the NFL Combine will be up and running up at Indy. I'm certainly not going to ask you for players that you're watching at the Combine because we're a little early for that. But is there a position group that you think the Saints might go up there to take a significant look at?
Yeah, I mean, it's deep in the offensive tackle. It's super deep this year, offensive tackle. Look.
Good, because the Saints don't have any at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it all depends on – man, look, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Ramczyk retires.
Exactly.
That knee's beat up. Left tackle, who knows, can play left tackle.
Andrews Pete, but he's not under contract, so you're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah. So let's see how they address things. And I know we talked about what can they do in free agency with defensive line, and I just want to see how they get through the free agency first. But, yeah, I think offensive tackle is the number one spot they're going to probably look at. I personally would like to see them do that in the second round. And in the first round, I would love for them to get a playmaker. If Brock Bowers falls, you can't pass on Brock Bowers. You'd be foolish to pass on a playmaker like Brock Bowers. Even Brian Thomas Jr., you have to replace Michael Thomas with somebody. So, I mean, Thomas, perfect. Give them a 13 jersey. All you got to do is add the junior to the back end of it. I mean, you got to get a guy who can go down the field, make some plays. The other two, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, can do that. But if you add Brian Thomas into that mix, I like it. I would prefer to do a playmaker in the first round, since it's deep when it comes to offensive tackles in this year's draft. So I would go playmaker, offensive tackle with my first two picks. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're looking at, playmakers and offensive linemen with their first two picks.
Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.